Welcome to the Who Needs It podcast. My name is Dalton, and I messed up a little bit, so I lost the audio file for the episode that was supposed to come out this month. So we re-recorded that podcast, but we did have a section where Harris talked about Dragon Ball Z and Akira Toriyama, who had recently passed away at that time, and talked about how important Dragon Ball Z was and how important Akira Toriyama was to him, and as well as other people. So we wanted to include that in this episode since we do still have Harris's audio file for it. So we're gonna go into that for about 8 minutes, and then we'll get back to like the normal podcast with me talking as well. But yeah, so the first 8 minutes you won't hear me, which is probably a good thing. And yeah, sorry for losing the podcast. My bad.
Alright, so I wanted to start this podcast off with something I'm sure a lot of people have already heard about, but it's remembering Akira Toriyama. He passed away on March 1st. He is super influential in a way that is, I think, very underrated. So obviously, if you don't know what he's done, you're probably living under a rock, but he is the creator of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. He also created Dragon Quest. He did designs for Chrono Trigger and Blue Dragon. So he's done more work like Tobalt 1 and Dr. Slump, but his biggest work is obviously Dragon Ball. I mean, Goku was in the Macy's Day Parade. I know he's a huge influence on Latin America. They will have like the movies and the TV series streamed in like huge outdoor public theaters for people to watch. I'm not one to speak to this, but I know there is like a pretty decent sized group of black men who really are into Dragon Ball Z, and if you're looking to try to understand why, I'm sure there's articles out there written about it or video essays that discuss it. They also, Team 4-Star is highly influential of itself, and that is a parody of Dragon Ball Z. So, this man's work is super influential in a way that it's hard to describe just the gravity and magnitude of all his vast work. I would compare it to the movie star Bruce Lee. He was also super highly influential. There's a documentary about, it's called like How Bruce Lee Changed the World, and it is kind of like, I don't want to say blowing smoke up his ass, but it is like, okay, I can see how this thing he did might have influenced X, Y, and Z. I think Akira Toriyama was probably more influential, especially in the day and age of internet. Bruce Lee died in 1973, and internet didn't exist, but when the internet did, he was still a super popular figure. Akira Toriyama, had time with the internet. He made new things that the internet got to experience. Even some of his fan works became official, like not his fan works, but fan work of Dragon Ball Z IP eventually became, not canon, but there are fan artists that got to work on Dragon Ball that eventually worked on official media, whether that's the anime or product. And even the guy who illustrates Dragon Ball Super, the ongoing series, started off with a fan comic. So his influence is vast in a way I don't think we truly understand. And some personal story for me is when I was a kid, I didn't really have friends growing up, and we didn't have money, so I would just come home from school and I would turn on TV, and occasionally Dragon Ball Z would be on the TV, and I didn't care what episode it was. I was just happy to see Dragon Ball Z. And without it being on TV, I wouldn't have started drawing, because I remember just filling my school notebooks with drawings of Goku and Vegeta and all the characters and I was probably maybe 5, and they're obviously not going to be good. But I remember whenever my parents wanted to get me a gift and they didn't know what I would be into, if it had Goku on it, they would just pick it up and be like, well, it's got Goku on it. He's going to like it. My first GBA game was Legend of Goku. So it was very influential in my life. I definitely wouldn't be an artist without Dragon Ball Z. And breaking down just how much I enjoyed it, I wanted to talk about a few of my favorite characters. One of them is Trunks, especially Future Trunks. He is based on the character from Terminator 2 Judgment Day, John Connor. He is a future traveler with a bowl cut. He shows up in the series when you think the peak level of power is Goku going Super Saiyan, and then he shows up and just casually turns Super Saiyan. And that the way they write it, where it's like, oh, there's actually way more power going on in the series than you have fathomed so far, is fantastic. And that's just a credit to Toriyama's writing. Another character I love, but a lot of fans don't, is Bardock. He's Goku's dad. I really like the lowly warrior rising up to, meet the, feudal dictator overlord Frieza. Spoiler, but it doesn't go well for him, but I do enjoy the character arc there. Broly is fantastic. He is everything great and everything bad about Dragon Ball Z. He's just a dumb power level, but he's also just a dumb power level. Just fucking love. He's just a mountain of muscle, and he's angry and stupid all the time. And that's some of the best Dragon Ball Z there is. Another one of my favorite characters is Cooler. I don't think there's a better soundtrack to a film than Cooler's Revenge's American soundtrack, because it's all just butt metal, and it's fantastic. It has Disturbed and Deftones on it. It couldn't have been better unless they put Linkin Park on there. I also love the pseudo predator transformation he has. So those are just some of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball.
Yeah. So do we want to do an intro here, or we already did one, so we just want to go?
Yeah, we should have an intro in that first episode.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, this episode was supposed to come out 6 days ago, but we lost the audio.
Yeah.
So
okay, so
we're just gonna keep. Oh, go ahead.
I feel bad saying we. I did. So apparently on my laptop where I record the episodes, it saves to my OneDrive. So I was like, okay, whatever. I don't use my OneDrive. So on my desktop, which has the same OneDrive because they're connected apparently, I just deleted everything in my OneDrive because I was like, I don't save anything to the OneDrive. So whatever's there, I don't use. So then when I came back to my laptop to finish editing the podcast was gone because apparently my Audacity automatically saves to the OneDrive, and I didn't know that. So when I went to I couldn't find the files. Okay, so where does my Audacity save? So I went file, save as a new project, and it said OneDrive. And I'm like, oh crap. So I deleted it. I deleted the podcast. But
it's okay.
In my defense, it was just my audio line. So you should just have heard Harris's talk about Dragon Ball and Akira Toriyama. So
yeah, I think it was a 10-minute eulogy for Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, so my bad. My bad.
It happens. I need to actually make the full thumbnail yet because I was just waiting, and I was like, I cannot remember what we talked about on the podcast, so I was just gonna wait for you to tell me, and then I was gonna slap together one so I can get one done uh, before, if I really push it, before 1 o'clock.
Yeah, so I think we're just gonna talk mostly about what we did last time. So I don't think we've lost much of anything. So
Yeah, it'll be a more condensed version, and it'll be kind of like us speed running the last episode with a few new things on it, I guess.
yeah,
So I'm just gonna swing right into the homework that we did. I believe mine last time was to listen to Abductus Ridiculous.
I think that was that. Yes.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, sick. I listened to, I think, like 8 or 10 episodes. If you're looking to get into Warhammer, it's totally for you. If it's not gonna make you a Warhammer fan if you're not already kind of interested in it. The two guys are pretty good hosts. They're fun and charismatic. The opening intro song, at least for the first 8 episodes, I think you said they changed it as they went. The opening song is amazing.
Yeah. If anything,
Other than that,
they changed the opening
go on.
song to be like more big. If you know what I mean, like it's just like more dramatic and more like organ music. So if anything, they made it like bigger.
Okay, I love the organ music. Yeah, so what about your homework?
So I can't remember what was what was the homework.
It was Jack Slack. It was the Jack Slack podcast.
Okay, and
Or
that is
the Filthy Casuals guides.
Yeah, okay. No, because I can't remember. I think I did the homework for the one that we said today, or from last time for this time, but that time doesn't exist anymore. So,
Could you remind me what they were?
so it was supposed to be. I don't remember what yours was, but I was supposed to watch Astro Boy, or no, Pluto.
Yes.
That was what
Don't
like
go into
this
it yet.
episode's homework was supposed to be for the May episode.
You and I were supposed to play Helldivers 2 was
Right.
my homework.
Yes.
And the day that we tried, that weekend was insane for me.
Yeah, everything went bad. Yeah, so I did. It was like a month ago now because I think we recorded that episode like the 24th of. No, we recorded it like in February, I think. Didn't we?
Something like that. It was like early. If it wasn't, this is the first recording we've done in April.
Yeah, and the last one
We
was.
might have done it like the middle of March
Yeah.
or early March.
Yeah, because I remember.
we tried to like blast it out real quick.
I remember. I was like, oh, I could watch like the video where they talk about Volkanovski and. Who was it even fighting? Volkanovski and.
Ilya Taporia.
Yeah, Taporia, and that was like 2 months ago because they just had UFC 300. So, but no, I liked the videos. It like he had some comedy and mixed in with it, and it was just like informational about different fights. I think I watched like one that was like I guess I don't know if you call it historical fight, but it was like I think it was one in like what is the fighting UFC thing in Japan called?
Pride.
Pride. I think I had one about Pride and like one of like all of the like the horrible matchups where it's just like a 300-pound man versus like a midget or something. So
Yeah, the freak show fights.
yeah. So, but no, yeah, I would recommend it if you're into fighting and UFC stuff. It was pretty good. So we went
even
more
if you're like
and
tangentially interested in fighting, I think he's a good like avenue to go into because he's not like a weirdo like your Joe Rogans and stuff like that. He just approaches it from like a real human aspect of like this person did this wrong, so that's why they kept having this issue, rather than being like this guy wasn't tough enough.
yeah,
Boo-hoo.
this guy didn't have enough heart to win this fight. Or it's like when the
Yeah, he has.
oh, go ahead.
Go on. He has a fantastic breakdown of like it's Mirko Krokop versus Fedor Emelianenko, and he just talked about how like going into that fight everyone was like, don't be worried about Crow Cop's kicks, because he was a kickboxer, and the joke was, it's like right leg hospital, left leg cemetery. So if he kicked you with one of those, you were not having a good time. But what Fedor did was he went up and he kicked first, because it's real hard to kick someone while you're getting kicked.
Fair.
So he has like insights like that, where it's like, why would someone do something completely like out of your realm of thought? Like, why would I do the thing that this guy is good at? Well, it's because if I'm doing that, he can't be doing that.
Yeah. Is Vader the guy that did all the steroids, or am I thinking of a different guy?
You're thinking of a different guy.
Gotcha.
Fedor's the guy that looks like, he just looks like a Russian uncle.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is it?
He's got like a beer belly.
Okay, yeah.
His entire career.
Fair. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't watch a bunch of, how do you say his name? Crow Cop?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like him, and I always feel sad when he loses. And I don't know why. I have no attachment to the guy at all.
Yeah, he comes across as a very genuine guy. From everything I've seen, he's a super nice guy.
Because he's like the firefighter, right?
That's Miocic,
oh, okay.
Who's also of Croatian ancestry. Crow Cop was the, I believe, former special forces.
Gotcha.
And police officer. That's why that's why his name was Crow Cop. That's not actually his name.
Oh my god, his name's not Crow Cop?
No.
What the fuck? I've been lied to.
You want me to look up his name?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be something very, I don't know. Is there a collective word for the language? Because, I mean, Croatian, Serbian, Bosnian, it's all the same language. I mean, but don't tell people that because they don't like it.
Yeah, I just call it Bosnian because, that's what I speak.
Because you speak that.
Surprise, guys. If you didn't know, I was Bosnian.
Exactly. I don't know why you don't show off the fact that you know another language as much. I would just be saying it all the time.
His full name is Mirko Filipovic. No, that's not how you would pronounce that.
Yeah, come on, you got it.
Filipovic.
Okay, yeah. Gefilte fish.
Yeah, gefilte fish.
Interesting.
Let's run through his record real quick. Where's his Sherdog?
His what?
His Sherdog page. Okay. He last fought in Bellator.
Where all fighters go to die.
Yeah. He fought in Bellator in 2019.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Against Roy Big Country Nelson.
Oh, please tell me Roy didn't kill him.
He won by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And then before that, in 2018, he fought Martinez in Ryzen 13 and won by TKO. Before that, okay, he was on a bit of a winning streak on his way out.
That's exciting.
Kasuka at Ryzen, TKO, corner stoppage. Amari, KO punches. Akaido, KO, knees to the body. You love to see knees to the body. Mohamed Lau, TKO.
What's his overall
punches.
record?
His overall record is 11 losses and 38 wins.
God damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's currently 49 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say in 2019 he would have been 45. Oh, wait, no, that was 5 years ago now. Yeah, so 44. That's still pretty good. I mean, also you pretty much just need to not die against Big Country. As long as you don't get punched in the face and knocked out, he's not gonna win a decision, and he's not gonna.
Yeah,
he's also
he lost to Roy Nelson in 2011. KO punches at BJ Penn versus Nick Diaz.
Crazy. Alright, so there's the homework. I guess you talked about an update to Dororo, I think, last time, so I don't know if you want to... I kind of feel bad because, like, people were just hearing the cliff notes of things because we're trying to get through it fast because it's like we already did this once and we will have, like, new stuff to talk about, but oh well.
Yeah, sorry about that. All 6 of our listeners.
Hell yeah.
But all 6 of you the real ones. So I talked about Dororo because I had finished the series. And what I really want to cover is not just the story beats to it, because I know that one of our listeners is now watching the series, and I don't want to spoil it too hard for them if they listen to this before they finish the series. But long story short, I don't think there's a bad episode in the 24 episodes that the show has. There are changes in quality of animation. I don't say the animation ever gets bad, but there are points where it's Mappa having to produce 24 episodes and then they outsource a couple of episodes, and those outsourced episodes, whatever studio worked on them said fuck it, we ball, and they just went in on the animation. In particular, there's an episode where he fights a giant like flaming moth on a lake while he's in a boat. That episode looks spectacular. That's also the episode where he gets his spine back, and at that point I didn't know that he didn't have like a bone spine. His spine was prosthetics, and the prosthetic starts shooting out of his back for his bones to grow back in, and that was a level of body horror that I wasn't ready for. I thought it was fantastic. The eventual meeting of him and his brother, that did not disappoint early on. I think the ending between him and his brother was kind of easy to tell what was going to happen, but this series really got me on Hyakimaru's side when the brother and his 2 like bodyguard babysitters like they try to jump him, Hyakimaru, and I was like, that's a bitch move, 3-on-1. And Hyakimaru cuts off the arm of one of each of their arms and permanently cuts the eye of his brother. And they go to the brother goes to the shrine where his dad made the deal the first time to give up Hyakimaru's body, and he goes to them and makes them a deal with the demons. So they give the bodyguards Hyakimaru's arms, and they give the brother Hyakimaru's eye, or both of his eyes, because they fix the eye that was damaged, and then they give him a third eye. And that was like when Hyakimaru like understands that they have his body parts. To this point, he has not seen his body parts until they grow back. That was a level of pettiness that I was like, I need to see this man just rip them to shreds. The fight between them is brutal. There's also a demon horse that shows up, and I was like, that's pretty cool. But the biggest takeaway I take from this show is that why is no one talking about this show? It is fantastic. The level of animation is amazing. The sound design is great. There's no dumb anime bullshit in it, which is usually why I don't watch anime, because oops, someone fell and touched a boob, or common misunderstanding. this is a show that understands what it's about. It gets from point A to point B in a relatively decent amount of time. I don't think there's any filler episodes. It is a brutal show, both gore-wise and emotional-wise. I would say don't get attached to any characters. But yeah, I think it's criminally underrated. I would give it a 9 out of 10, which is a very rare rating for me to give. Like, if you like anime, watch this show. That's what a 9 means. If you like this medium, watch this show. I think it's out and out like wrong for people to sing the praises of shows like Demon Slayer. Nothing wrong with Demon Slayer, but
Everything
like this show is Demon Slayer but good.
Bad Demon Slayer.
This is
Bad.
Demon Slayer but good.
Fair. I hate Demon Slayer. But continue. I just had to yell about how I hate Demon Slayer.
No, you're totally fine. And I am not a huge fan of Demon Slayer. I watched almost all the episodes, and it really didn't do much for me as far as story and as far as character went, but animation wise it does not miss. Then that same weekend I watched the show Pluto, and wait, did we talk about the guy who made Dororo? Did we talk about that in the last episode or the previous episode?
I do not remember.
The one that's lost, or okay. So real quick, I'm just gonna do a quick cliff notes. It was written by Osamu Tezuka in 1967 and ran till 1968. Is a short series, and there was I believe a 1970s anime version of it, and then this 2019 reanimation of it. So Osamu Tezuka was a prolific manga and an animator. He was a doctor. He graduated as a doctor, but went into manga writing because he had such a passion for it. This is just a very Cliff Notes version of Osamu Tezuka, but he made what we call here in the West Astro Boy. But it's called Atom in other parts of the world, mainly Japan. I don't know what other countries call it Atom, but Astro Boy is a big deal. He's known as like the father of manga or the godfather of manga because he's so prolific, and he would just produce these works so quickly. I believe he was the first to make a adult, air quotes around adult, manga. And so once I finished Dororo, I kind of did some research on him, but before I knew anything, I was sick that one weekend, so I just watched all of Pluto on Netflix. It's a 8-episode series. I watched all of that in almost one sitting, I think, not knowing what it was. So Pluto is also a Osamu Tezuka related work because it's a prequel to Astro Boy, which I did not know. It's a work based on Astro Boy, but it's not directly by Osamu Tezuka. It's by Naoki Urasawa, who is also another very, very prolific writer. He wrote Pluto, obviously. He wrote 20th Century Boys, and he wrote Monster. So I think by the next episode, I'll watch more of, or read more of what he's done. He also hosted to me, a YouTube show. I don't know what it directly went on, but he interviewed other mangaka and how they work, what process they went into, any backstory of why they do manga. I believe it's pronounced manga no manben. Just type in his name onto YouTube, and then that should come up. but I love the behind the scenes of creative works and how they go about creating that, and the manga industry just kind of grinds people into a dust. So it's cool to see their processes. But back to Pluto, it was a very good show. I guess I didn't understand what it was until it became clear that it was a prequel to Astro Boy or Atom. But I really enjoyed the detective portion of it. It was a very Blade Runner. It's like Blade Runner the anime, and I was impressed by what it did with that. The main character, the detective, is a robot. That's not really a spoiler. The only issue I see with this show is that they are arguing about the robot's sentience, and it kind of falls flat when there are, quote unquote, lower grade models that seem to already have wants and needs. One of them, there is a maid robot that loses her husband, who was a police robot, and she goes about, not directly expressing emotion, but she says, I want his memory chip and to put it in her head so she can have the memories that he had. But them wanting that is already a sign of sentience.
I mean,
so
they were already
it kind of falls flat.
married too. Like, how is that not like they had enough emotional connection to, I guess, another robot? But it's like they were able to make connections with other beings. How did they not think there's sentience there if they're married?
Yeah, exactly. So if you can kind of like forget about that fact, because they kind of want to make Adam the first quote unquote sentient robot, the like bridge between humans and robots. Other than that, I think the story is pretty good. It doesn't, the entire time it doesn't stay a detective series. It does turn into, big robots fighting, but it holds up really well. I think it's a really underrated series. So
Nice.
that's what I have to say about Pluto.
Yeah. No, I think I watched the first episode, but it's been like a month ago now, because I think it was like right after we recorded the last episode. So I remember liking it, but I don't really remember much else about it. I'll have to rewatch it. Yeah, you talking about how good like the animation is made me realize it's like, man, have you watched Invincible?
I watched parts of it, and then I saw sections of season 2.
Yeah.
And was not impressed.
Season 2, like, I understand that it's like very time intensive to make an animated series, and especially since like I think the first season came out in 2020 or 2021 maybe, and man, the animation is bad. Like, not just like there's scenes where like Invincible is flying away, and they literally just have like him in a monopose, and it's like them like dragging the JPEG across the sky. There's a scene where they're in a convention center, and I'm not even exaggerating. They have like maybe 8 background models that they just copy and paste in the background, and then when they do the big wide shot, there's like 3 or 4 copies of each of those characters in the background. Like, there's a guy dressed up as a pirate, and in the background shot, if you pause it, he's there like 6 or 7 times. And like and then like those background characters, they're not doing anything. They're literally just like pictures, like JPEGs of them standing there. And it's like, what the hell? Like, we watched like an episode of Bob's Burgers after that, and like something's happening at the school for the kids or whatever, and they're in the lunchroom, and I'm just looking at the background. I'm like, all the characters in the background are different, and they're like, they animate their faces moving, so it's like actually a thing. And it's like, how does this big budget Amazon thing not have the time? And then they, even in that scene, so maybe they did it bad on purpose, because they're at a Comic-Con and Invincible goes up to like a booth as like his normal persona, and it's like talking to a guy, and they do like this fourth wall breaking thing about like oh yeah, anime is, anime shows take a really long time to animate, and have you ever noticed sometimes they like cover the mouths of the people so that way that you don't have to animate the faces, so then like Mark covers his mouth, and like a comic book is covering the other guy's mouth. So it's like, I don't know, it's like a fourth wall breaking thing, but it's like it's been really, really bad, and the story's not great. And I'm like, man, if this is like the series now, I think it's gonna go downhill pretty fast, which is pretty sad because I really like the comics. I know that you've read a little bit of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I need to get back to them. I read the entire first volume, and then like 10 chapters or a couple of chapters into the second volume.
Gotcha.
But I think my issue with Invincible is not it's hard to explain, because I think most of their budget, like the first season did really well.
Yeah.
I think most of their budget went to the voice actors.
That could be true, yeah.
Because, like, I know you have J.K. Simmons as the dad.
Yeah, and then Sandra Oh.
You have Sandra Oh, and then Stephen Yu from The Walking Dead.
Yeah. A lot of the other characters are
as Mark.
Walking Dead actors and actresses, actually, too. Like, Immortal is, like, a character from The Walking Dead named Aaron. A lot of, like, the Guardians of the Globe were former actors of The Walking Dead, which makes sense because it's Robert Kirkman, but
yeah, it's like you have Mark Hamill, who's a fantastic voice actor, but I don't think he's cheap. Like, getting the Joker / Luke Skywalker is not going to be cheap. You have Seth Rogen as Alan the Alien. I think he's a producer on the show, but
still.
Yeah. There's like Zachary Quinto, and I think most of their money went into the cast, which is fine, but I'm just not impressed by the animation, and it really lets this very impactful story down.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna harm it, because I liked what I read of Invincible. I mean, there wasn't enough Battle Beast, but like there never will be.
Yeah, that's fair. Did you get to the there's a guy named Angstrom Levy? Did you get to that guy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what season 2's about. And that is probably the weakest arc, I think, from the comic itself. Because he's kind of like a villainous character, but he's not very menacing at all. There's something that happens right after that that's really exciting, but that's like gonna be season 3, so who knows how long. It was about 3 or 4 years between the last season, so we're probably not gonna get another season until 2027, something like that. So
if we get another season after the poor animation.
Yeah, I think it's already, well, I guess this means nothing nowadays, where like the studio has like, oh, Invincible, I think is approved through season 5 now. But like that stuff doesn't mean anything, because I mean it was the same thing with The Witcher, and I believe The Witcher just got not canceled, but like The Witcher is only gonna have 4 seasons or 5 seasons instead of 7. So I mean that stuff doesn't really mean anything anymore. So
yeah, they pull the plug on stuff all the time now. I don't want to directly compare Invincible to another show, but the show My Adventures with Superman has probably not even close to the budget of Invincible, but its animation is so fantastic and their character design is really good. It's less of a Superman show and more of a Lois and Clark dating sim kind of thing.
What is it on TV? Because I think I've seen that before, or maybe clips or something.
Yeah, it's on, I believe it's on HBO.
Okay, yeah, I think I've seen a couple
Who
episodes,
has all of DC
and I was
stuff.
like, oh, this is kind of. It's also kind of a adult too, if I remember right.
Yeah, but it tackles it in a way where the show is completely appropriate for children,
Yeah,
but it's not like, ooh, edgy gore, he lasered this dude's head off. It's like, oh, he's got to make rent,
yeah,
but how is he going to balance all this, his like internship with not getting in trouble with his boss, with, trying to save Lois
and the
kind of
the
thing.
world,
Yeah.
and not get discovered that he is a Superman because he wears glasses. Weird, dude. This is completely off the thing. I totally forgot that like Lois Lane was with Batman in some of the like old comics.
Yeah, I think they had them like, for lack of a better term, swap.
Yeah,
Old comics. Old. Can we talk about American comics and the issue with them?
yeah, we can do that.
So it's so hard to find. That's why I really like. Sorry, I'm bouncing off the walls right now. It's so hard to find an easy continuity for things, and that really hinders American comics, because you'll pick up an issue and you'll enjoy it, and then instead of it being Superman, you pick up Superman volume 4, and then you pick up 5, and then you pick up 6, but for whatever reason what happened in 5 no longer matters in 6, because instead of reading 6, you were supposed to read Lois and Clark volume 3.
Dude, that's hilarious.
And then
Lois
read
and Clark. This is like Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, I don't like. There's not usually a normal through line, and that's a huge problem with American comics.
Yeah.
Another thing is the artists and writers don't always stay on for the entire series. So you'll have 7 issues drawn by Jim Lee, and then you'll have the next 4 issues drawn by I cannot think of another comic artist. I don't know, John Doe.
Fair.
And they could have completely separate styles, which is totally fine, but you're used to one style, so that's a bit jarring. And then the same thing will happen with the writing team, or an editor will change, whereas in manga and manhwa you'll have like one person doing it all, which is not always, I'm not saying people should get ground into dust for their artwork, but like Akira Toriyama wrote and drew Dragon Ball by himself, so the art was going to stay, this art style was going to stay the same, the story was going to at least follow its own pattern. Yeah. You didn't have to go Dragon Ball volume 12 to Vegeta Chronicles volume 2. It was, you start it from volume 1 and go to the end. You don't have to worry about, oh, I have to go read this comic to understand this thing.
Yeah.
They don't have issues like that. It's just like a follow this till it's done. I know, like, someone's going to be screaming, oh, what about One Piece? It just goes on forever. Yeah, but it's One Piece. You read One Piece volume 105. What do you think you're going to read next? Volume 106. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have to look in the back of the comic I just bought to try to make sure that I have to pick up some random offshoot to understand why this character is here now, or this character's not dead anymore. And another thing is they reboot comics all the time. How many times has Professor Xavier died in the comics? Yeah, I know there are anime that death doesn't matter, but at least there's a start point and an end point in manga, whereas in comics it starts, it stops, it starts, it stops. Like DC reboots like every 5 years, so why should I care what happens? It's always going to return to the status quo. And
Yeah, and even if it doesn't
again,
turn to status quo right away, like, oh, Batman died in the last thing, and Batman stand for like the first 2 volumes, he's going to be back in volume 3. They can't get rid of any of these characters.
yeah, like, I think they killed Alfred recently, but like, he's going to be back. I know he will be, especially when they reboot it again.
Yeah. That's what. So I got into comics for a while, and I didn't touch like Marvel or DC at all, because like I like they're just gonna get rebooted. So like I just like got comic books that like Invincible. You know, there's like the through line. I think there's 156 issues or something like that, and then eventually they like branched out and had side stories of different characters. So I mean, you might want to read some of those so you get the background on these people. But once they're thrown into the like Invincible comics, like you don't need that background information because they explain them pretty well in it. So, and then it's just like other comics where like I don't know, like there's like this horror one called Dark Ride I read. There's this one about like a military robot named Junkyard Joe, and they're all like encapsulated stories. They're pretty much just like short stories or almost, and like I just hate like Marvel and DC comics. I never want to read them because it's like you said, they just gotta reboot anyways. So everything you read before, it's gone, and it's like, oh, if you really like, I don't know, the Hulk, well, you also need to read Thor 22, and you need to read Iron Man 36, and also he's in a spin-off episode where, you know, this big thing happens to him, but we don't explain it when we get back to the Hulk storyline, and it's like, what are we doing this for? I know it's just probably to buy as many comics as possible, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I enjoy the Invincible series. I don't know if other Image comics, I know The Walking Dead did this too because it's by the same guy, but I don't know if other Image comics does that, but I enjoy it. It keeps moving forward, and it's gonna matter even if it's never going to return to the status quo because there is no status quo. It's just going to keep moving forward. And the story is going to happen. Whether that story is good or not, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah, so I've only read Image comics because I got into The Walking Dead. I read those, and then I stuck with Image because I liked them. And like that's pretty much all their stories. I mean, they have like a couple superhero comics going on now that are probably going to take forever to like do anything, so you know, there's no like status quo, but there's a lot of like almost filler issues where they're just like, we're wanting to have 200 issues of this thing, so it takes a while. And then there's sometimes where they have crossover episodes or issues where like, I think there's 3 or 4 superhero comics going on with Image, and they're all part of the same universe. So that like sometimes they'll be in an episode of what the hell is it called? I can't even think of the name of the comic book now. I read like 30 issues of it. It's like something like Black something. I don't remember. Anyways, but like that character will be in this like a Dead Lucky comic, which is another superhero. So if you miss that, but in the Invincible like compendiums that you have, I think they have every issue that Invincible is ever in, even if it's outside of like the Invincible like through canon. So I think there's like a couple issues where like the Amazing Wolfman is in it, and they have issues of Amazing Wolfman in the Invincible compendium because it's everything about Invincible. So, and that's also a thing. Like you can never read all of the DC comics, or like Spawn or something. There's so many issues. There's not like one compendium that you can get, or like something like Savage Dragon that's been going on since like the 90s. It's like impossible if you want to read like everything, which I want to read is all, if I like the series, I want to read everything in it. So
yeah, it's the other issue comes in with so the way I enjoy media is I care about characters first, then I care about world building, then I care about plot. Like if you have a good set of characters in an okay world with a dumb plot, I'm fine with. I have no problems. That's gonna be some of my favorite stuff. If you have a fleshed out world with a good plot, but I don't like the characters, it's gonna do nothing for me. That's just how I enjoy media. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's how I approach media. When a character isn't actually ever gonna change, isn't gonna actually develop, then I don't really care. And that's what's gonna happen with, your Spider-Mans, your Supermans, your Batman or Batman, whatever. It's going to return, like, they're going to go back to square one eventually. Eventually you're gonna see Batman's parents get murdered again and again and again. And I don't care, because he's just a template for them to do fun tricks with. He's not a real character anymore. I mean, the most enjoyable thing I've seen from Batman in a long time was Batman Ninja. And that was just them going insane and just being like, but what if Batman in feudal Japan with mecha? And I was like, this is stupid, and I like it. Because I don't, it's there. They said characters. What characters? Get out of here. We're just here to have weird anime fights. And I was like, okay, I accept your premise and I'm going with it. Whereas other media, it has to be like, take it in a vacuum. It's like, oh, this is the Batman 19 or the Batman animated series. It exists in this time capsule. So if you like the Batman animated series, don't read the comics, because those aren't the same things. And the Batman, X, Y, and Z aren't the same as everything else. If I want to read Dragon Ball Z, I go read Dragon Ball Z. I don't have to worry about what offshoot or what variant there is. I just go and I read Dragon Ball Z. And I'm not saying it being the way it is makes it better than American comics. I'm just saying, if the writer is bad, I'm not going to sit around and be like, well, maybe it'll get better. It's not gonna get better. I just can put it down. Whereas with American style comics, it can be like, well, this writer's gonna write issues 6 through 11, so I'm gonna stay around and read those issues, and maybe I'll be invested in it. I'm not gonna get invested in it because that writer's only gonna write a few issues. Whereas if I want to read the adventures of Naruto, I just go read those, and I know that, Musashi Kishimoto is going to write his characters the way he writes them, not always well, but he writes them. And I know they're going to stay relatively consistent with his writing patterns.
Fair. Yeah, I think the only time I can really think of like the DC or like the Marvel comics, like, I guess the big changes. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get rid of Bruce Wayne, but I mean, they did get rid of Peter Parker. It's Miles Morales now. I mean, Flash used to be Barry Allen, but now he's Wally West. So, I mean, I guess that's a way that they kind of change the character, is by changing who it is. But I don't know if they could ever do that with Superman or Batman. I mean, I feel like Superman has to be Clark Kent forever. I don't know if Batman cannot be Bruce Wayne. I mean, I guess I don't know if I probably would have said that about Peter Parker too, with like how many Spider-Man movies there was and how like synonymous Spider-Man is with Peter Parker. But they've done it. They've changed it to Miles Morales, so maybe they'll do something like that.
Yeah, I could see them doing that, but again, it's the what is the real Miles Morales? Like, if you just watch the films, that's totally fine. But if you want more Miles, do you go to the video game? Do you go to the comics? Are they going to be written the same? Is Miles still going to be the Miles you think of? Maybe it is the same Miles, but maybe the world is different enough that you're off put by, oh, I'm not going to see other Spider-Men in this? Okay, maybe I don't want this. I wanted more Spider-Verse stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. I guess, do you want to talk about Fallout for a little bit and then probably end it? We're at 45 minutes, I think. And I don't know how, I can't remember how long we talked. I think you talked quite a bit about Dragon Ball and Akira Toriyama. So,
Yeah, I think I did like a 10-minute spiel.
it might have been a little bit longer than that.
Oh, okay. Do we want to run over Dune real quick?
Oh
Dune
yeah,
2,
did we? I didn't know if we wanted to
Electric
do Dune and Fallout, or do you just want to do Dune and then?
Well, we can do a quick thing over Fallout, but I think maybe if we spend maybe 10 minutes talking about Dune and then another 10 on Fallout, I think we'd be good.
Yeah, and then maybe have you seen all of Fallout or no? Okay.
Yes.
I've only seen the first 2 episodes, so maybe next episode I'll have finished the series and we can talk about, or finish the season and we can just talk about the whole like season after that. So if people want to listen to next month's episode, maybe watch Fallout if you don't want to be spoiled. But yeah, Dune. I'm trying to remember. That was about a month ago we saw Dune, I think.
If not more so.
Yeah. I think we both kind of said it was good, but some of it was kind of dumb. Was that, or was that just me? Am I projecting?
Our overall, I feel the same way. I was like, it was good, but I had a couple of issues. Like, I think we talked about the pacing being all over the place. Like, we both thought it took place over several years, but the mom was still pregnant the entire series, the entire film. But it felt like he earned these people's trust over the course of, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Surprise, it was a couple of months.
Yeah, like to gain this like people who are distrustful of outsiders trust. I understand that they're kind of in the same situation because I mean Paul's entire family, or like his dad and like his whole house was just destroyed, so they like shared this bond of that we both hate the Harkonnens. But it's like to gain their trust like that seemed a little weird. But I mean, I guess they had been kind of like set up to like trust Paul because he's like the Lisan al-Ghaib or whatever, and like the religious doctrine has been brainwashing some of the Fremen for years now to like prepare them for when he arrives. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but that, and then like just the pacing where it's like there'd be like a scene where Paul's like, I'm never heading south, and like literally the next scene is him talking about him going south. Or he's like, Chani, I'll never change, I'll always love you. And then it's like, Chani, I've changed, I don't love you.
Yeah, his character was all over the place.
Which I guess I don't know if that just is like what was supposed to happen. If it's supposed to show to us like Paul doesn't really feel comfortable in the position that he's found himself in, and he's just kind of making stuff up as he goes. And I guess I don't know, how old is he supposed to be? Is he just like?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because we watched the 1980s version.
Oh yeah.
And that was like a 30-year-old man.
He did look 30. I think he's probably like, it's usually in like the shows and stuff where it's like they say they're like 18 or 19, but in like the books he's like probably like 13 or 14. They always do something like that. But yeah, it just seems like he's like doesn't know what he's doing, which is fine. But yeah, it just seems like it kind of sets it up for weird pacing. It definitely feels like a middle movie in the set of a trilogy almost. I mean, I guess the ending of the Dune 2 was a pretty closed ending, but yeah, the pacing was weird. Do you have anything to say about that, pacing wise?
Pacing was all over the place. Character wasn't really for me. I still enjoyed the film, but I think the other issue, quote unquote issue, I had with it was how it would go from a super dark scene to pointing the camera at the sun. They were just like, let's flashbang the audience.
I mean, that's desert power, man.
And I get it. It's hard to get interesting shots in the desert. There's like 4, but maybe don't just go super dark scene, wait for their eyes to adjust, point the camera at the sun.
Yeah. Also, I'm so over the like the music that's just like women like yelling. You know what I'm talking about? Or it's like, do they just do that? You know?
That's all that soundtrack was. That's all that.
And I'm not crazy,
It's
but it's not just Dune. It's like every show has that now. It's just like,
yes, it's either that or a dark version of a pop song.
okay, fair. Yeah.
They only have two modes.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing that I didn't hate about Dune, but like we got like set up for like was it Fade Rathma? Is that how you say his name?
I think so.
Okay. So we get the big scene where like we introduce him and he's just like stabbing his concubines and it's like, "Oh, he's crazy." And then we see him in the arena almost lose to just like some middle-aged Asian man that we don't know who he is, who apparently is just like one of the Atreides soldiers. And then pretty much the only thing he does is that he uses his resources and shoots a mountain, and then Paul stabs him and kills him. Like, I didn't think he was like a very scary villain. Like, I felt like the Baron was a scarier villain than Fade, because Fade was there for like 10 minutes and did nothing and then died. And like, they must have had deleted scenes with him, right?
They must have, even though this movie was 7 years long.
Yeah.
He just pops up, almost loses a fight, because he fights 3 guys at once, but 2 of them are drugged, and 1 of them isn't. And they go about the scene where they are like, oh, he knows that he's not drugged. Is he honorable or is he not? Because we know he's not, because he's just randomly kills his concubines, and that scene is so edgy. I was like, oh, this scene belongs in a 2006 Hot Topic. Then he's like, yeah, let me get a real challenge, and almost loses to one unnamed warrior who's not drugged.
Unless he's like
and then
playing with him, I guess. Maybe that's like his character, that he was just like playing with him, giving him false hope, but like still, it doesn't set him up as like a scary villain.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed by his skills. I'm trying to think of other villains who have done something similar, who did it better, but I don't know. I didn't know which direction they were trying to go with him, because he was like, I'll kill anybody, but this one dude, I could just have the servant stab him to death, but no, I want to stab him to death. I don't know what they were going for.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, all the House Harkonnen people in this movie were like, we don't see any substance scenes with Raban, Batista. You don't really see anything big with him. And then, like, the Baron, you don't really see anything big with him. And then he just kind of dies. And then Raban kind of just dies. And apparently Gurney hates Raban, but we don't really know why. I guess it's just because Raban was in charge when, like, they attacked the Atreides. I think there's, like, a deeper thing in the book. I think Raban kills Gunny's family in the book, but I don't know. Like, the villains weren't very villainous in this. It almost turned into, like, the villains were the Bene Gesserit and the Emperor and, like, his daughter and stuff in this episode. Because the Harkonnens kind of just look like pussies, I guess. But maybe that was the point where it was showing us, like, yeah, the Harkonnens fucked everything up last movie, but they're not even that scary. It's like the Emperor and his crew are the scary people.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be like a power creep thing where it's like, you saw how bad those guys were. Those guys make these guys look like chumps, which I guess makes sense, but I don't know. You kind of built those guys up in the first film in a way where I wanted to see them like bump up against the main character's issues and then have a real conflict. But at any time the main characters came across them, they were dead. Like, the Emperor or the Baron died like a bitch so quickly. I was like, oh, that's it? The guy who floated in his chair menacingly in the first film just kind of fell over and they stabbed him or whatever. Yeah. I can't even remember how they killed him. I know he died on those stairs
that's
like a bitch.
Too, yeah.
So, sorry for the spoilers, but if you're going to see this film for those few characters, don't go see this film. If you're going for the overall Dune-ness, yeah, go check it out. It's long, but it's good. I'd say it's a good
I liked
film.
it.
Just has its
Speaking
issues.
of Dune-ness, the whole thing with Jessica being pregnant and then like the baby being some sort of like psychic mind thing where they can talk. Why the fuck does Jessica talk out loud to the baby?
That drove me nuts. That drove me insane. I was like, "Stop talking!" Because that one
lady was like getting like the poison.
She just goes, "Are you talking?"
And she was like,
Yeah.
And like Jessica was like, "Enough!" And the lady's like, "What? What are you talking about? I'm just hanging out. Why are you yelling at me?" And he's like, "Oh, not you, my infant baby who's using her mind to talk to me, which I could use my mind too, but I'm gonna yell out loud for no fucking reason." Yeah.
That drove me insane.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff like that where it's like, oh, this is very Dune-y. This is very, like, fantasy kind of dumb. I did like Stilgar, who just, like, I feel like Stilgar wasn't portrayed as, like, a religious fanatic in the first movie, but he is in the second. And, like, him just yelling, like, Muad'Dib every time Paul goes in the desert and takes a shit, and he's like, he is the chosen one, he shits in the desert. And it's like, Stilgar, relax, dude.
Yeah, anything Paul does, that's him. He's the guy. He's the guy. He's the GOAT. And I'm like, bro, chill.
Yeah, it's something. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's easier to talk about things you don't like than things you do like in media in general. So it may sound like we didn't like Dune, but I liked it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, if they make a third one, I'd definitely watch it. Yeah, and before we watched Dune 2, we watched the 1980s Dune, and Dalton hated it, and I kind of liked it because it was stupid.
Yeah, he there's a scene where the fucking Mentat guy who just disappeared and Yufei or something, he jerks a cat off. That was weird. Sting's in it. The Harkonnen are gingers.
Yes. Yeah.
It was all very weird. I don't know. Apparently, like, yeah, he was like supposed to milk a cat or he would die, but it was never said if it was a female cat. So I just took it as he has to jerk this cat off all the time or he'll die. And then like, so like the first like I don't know hour and 20 minutes is like the first movie of Dune, and then they end up doing the rest of like the next two books in the next like 20 minutes. It was crazy.
If you want to see insane pacing, watch that film.
Yeah, because like, up until like he meets
the child
Fremen,
is born and then is like 2 scenes later.
Which I don't know if that's because she's a weird alien baby thing or if that's like normal. So, yeah.
Yeah, the guy who plays Paul Atreides is Kyle MacLachlan, who is also in Twin Peaks, but he's also in the Fallout series as the dad.
That's that guy. I was watching the show.
That's what we call a transition.
I was watching the show yesterday, and I was like, "Why do I know this guy?" Oh, and then the main character's brother, like Lucy's brother, like that's like his name's like
he's Hannah Montana.
He's Hannah Montana. I was like,
yeah, he is the titular Hannah Montana.
Like, like, I feel bad for saying this, but I'm like, man, the only thing that grew on him was his nose. The man is not any taller than he was when he was on Hannah Montana. So, but yeah, so Fallout. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I thought it was good. Like,
What?
Oh, good.
Yeah, I watched the entire series, and it was a solid all the way through. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the ghoul, played by Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Okay, so I thought I was gonna hate him because in like the second episode, it looked like he. Oh, spoilers for the first 2 episodes, I guess at least, of Fallout. it looks like he killed the dog, and I was like, fuck this guy. I fuck everything he stands for. I hope his but
You're gonna have to edit that out. That sounds insane.
okay, hold on. Let me explain. And he looked like he killed the dog. Okay, maybe I'll cut that out.
You need to cut that.
Okay, fair. But yeah, he kills the dog, or it looks like he kills the dog, but he brings the dog back. So I'm like, okay, he's okay. I'll allow it. And then Benjamin Linus, the scientist. Do you get that?
Yeah,
reference?
the guy from Lost.
Oh hell yeah! I didn't know if you would get that reference.
Yeah,
dude, that poor guy. Yeah. He just got typecast as like weird science man, and that's all he does is he's like weird, like autistic science man. That's all his roles.
I can relate.
Fair. But no, I thought it was good. Like the little nods to like the games and stuff. Like when those guys go get the ghoul, he has like the rocket launcher where he shoots like that doll arm through that man's chest. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, the junk cannon.
Yeah.
When that popped up, I was like, "That's the junk
isn't that
cannon."
the
I
rocket
was
launcher?
the Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
Yeah, I thought it was the rocket launcher. Because is the rocket launcher the thing that you put all this junk in?
There's a thing called the junk cannon in Fallout 4.
Oh, okay.
Where you can just put anything that's categorized as junk into your ammunition slot, and it will just randomly shoot.
Yeah, I think that's just
anything.
Okay,
yeah,
I think that was the same thing I was talking about, but I got the name wrong. But yeah, and just like how, like the cities and how like all the raiders have like weird just like armor on. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. Like, I don't really get what's happening yet. I know some people were kind of not happy with how the Brotherhood looked. Because they almost look like they're like it's a religious cult. Did you have any opinions about that, or did you like? Because it's just like at the end of the second episode, it's pretty much they get the Philly and that kid takes the power armor and goes like out on his adventure.
Yeah, I thought their depiction of the Brotherhood was kind of what you would expect from the Brotherhood. Like, it's a cult.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know why people would have an issue with it being portrayed as a religion, because like the way they go about, like, they call themselves knights and squires and shit. Like, yeah, they're gonna be weird and religious-y.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't super surprised by that. I mean, and there's like elders and like all this stuff. So I don't know. I thought it was fine. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because it was just like the Vault Dweller, the Brotherhood, and then for the longest time, I was so confused where we were, like, in the, like, what do I want to say, like in America where we were, because I thought the Brotherhood said the Commonwealth, which the Commonwealth is like Boston, Massachusetts, but I'm pretty sure we're in California. Am I crazy?
You are correct on both of those fronts. Like, the Commonwealth is the Boston area, but this show is on the
West Coast.
West Coast.
Okay, yeah. Am I crazy?
Yeah.
I thought maybe they said something else, or like they just call, like, or maybe that guy escaped from the Commonwealth is coming that way. Maybe that's what happened. But I swear they said Commonwealth. I'm like, oh, so like Boston. But yeah, so interesting. But no, I thought it was really good so far. We'll have to see how it goes, like how the story progresses. But I mean, I feel like it's a pretty faithful adaptation to like the games. And I feel like it's done pretty well. I don't think there's anything glaring that was bad.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into my critiques of the characters and stuff until you get further into it. Apparently, this show is canon to the Fallout lore. I've seen them touch on a bunch of stuff. Like, I haven't played 76. I've seen people play through 3, and I've seen people play through parts of New Vegas, and I've played Fallout 4 several times. It has touched all of those things. Like, I was like, oh, is that from this game? Or is that a reference to this character? And yes, it is. They know what they're doing. The only nitpick, because obviously I'm going to have problems with it, that's what I do, is there is a scene, I can't believe we're going to talk about this, but there's a scene when you meet Maximus. There's a man in his tent self-pleasuring himself.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
Then later, there's a scene where Maximus does not understand what sex is, does not understand what self-pleasure is. They go out of their way to be like, I don't know what this is. Sometimes this happens to my downstairs area.
Are you serious?
And I was...
But
yeah, it blew... I like melted my brain. I was like... But,
maybe he didn't know what the guy was doing, I guess?
Yeah, but they approach it as like the Brotherhood keeps these people uneducated in this, which totally makes sense. But then, if this guy is in the tent with all these people doing that, someone would have been like, stop, what are you doing? That's wrong.
Yeah.
And would have called him out. Because they're all going at each other. Because that's how cults work. They're always trying to fuck over someone else at their level so they can rise up in the ranks. Someone would have been like, bro's touching himself.
Yeah, kill him.
Put him in isolation. Yeah. Chop his arms off.
Yeah.
But that was one of my big nitpicks. Just don't show that scene. Like, it's played for jokes.
Yeah, but if a joke kind of
there's enough comedy
ruins the plot where it's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense now.
Yeah, it really took me out of it. Like, the cognitive dissonance wasn't dissonancing enough for me because it just, I don't know why that small little thing just like someone came up to me and just shoved me over, where I was like, I was having a great time. I was, not all the jokes landed, but I thought the show was funny. There's a scene with the power armor where a guy isn't in the power armor but is using it to fight. I love that scene. Yeah. The action, I think, is maybe the okay part of it, but the action isn't long enough to be bad. It's just like, okay, that's a funny way to kill somebody. Cool. We're still going? Okay, cool. But any scene with Walton Goggins' character, fantastic.
Fair.
They make a reference to another show he's in, and I laughed and had to explain it to my girlfriend. But there's a scene where they were like, what he did was justified, and I was like, oh, that's the other show he's in.
What's the other show he's in?
It's called Justified.
Oh. Did he look at the camera and wink or something?
No, I would have been like, okay, that's stupid. But the way they did it, I was like, that's a reference for me, the Walton Goggins fan.
Okay, I know this is kind of spoiler, but there's no Caesar's Legion in this, right? God damn it! I love the Caesar's Legion. Not like that. Not that they did good things. I think they're just fucking so stupid. Like, anytime anyone says retribution, which isn't very often, I just yell retribution, because that's what the Legion characters will run around when they attack you say. So,
as you should.
But yeah, so Fallout, pretty okay. I mean, I'm not really I don't really like any of the characters, I guess, right now. Like, I think the Brotherhood character, I think he's like too weak, and he's gonna like mess stuff up because he's a baby, but we'll see. What did you think of like the knight that he squired for?
As a character, or as, well, the guy's dead, so there's nothing to spoil. I didn't like him at first because I was like, oh, he's just being an asshole. But then I remember what the Brotherhood is like. And yeah, that's how someone's going to turn out if they're in this system of getting shit on by people who are higher than you. You wait till you have people below you so you can shit on them, kind of thing.
I don't know. I kind of thought it was weird because I guess I just kind of assumed all the knights would be like Paladin Dance from Fallout 4. You know what I mean? Like very like
yeah.
But this guy was like just like a shithead. Like how did he make it to knight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they kind of do a good way of showing like, oh, if you're a squire and your knight dies, you're now a knight kind of thing, where it's like he was just there, like his best trait was that he showed up.
Yeah.
Whereas like comparing him to Paladin Dan, they're not even like in the same realm.
The guy that died. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're not in the same realm of like, I understand why. Like if you just showed me this guy, the guy who died, Titus.
Yeah, Titus.
If you just showed me this guy, I'd be like, I don't know why people are in the Brotherhood.
Fair.
But I thought it was funny when he was getting attacked by the bear.
Excuse me.
What
is it called?
Sorry. Oh no.
Oh, you a fake Fallout fan? Hey, everyone laugh and point at this fake Fallout fan who didn't know what a Yagwai is.
Oh, the Yagwai. Okay, yeah. It's a bear.
It's
I'm not
a
gonna
bear.
refer to it.
I don't know why it's like a. I don't know what language that is, but okay. Is that Chinese? Yagwai?
I don't know.
You speak another language, shouldn't you know?
Oh yeah, let me use my linguistic skills.
Yeah, you know Bosnian. Why don't you know Chinese too? Well, all right. That's all I had for that. I hear you looking up Yagwai currently to tell us what it means. So I'll keep vamping about how Fallout was pretty okay. And I saw people complaining. It's like, oh, all these people who watched the Fallout show are gonna play Fallout 4, and they don't know that's the worst Fallout game. And I'm like, Fallout 4 is not bad. I feel like it's not great because they spent like the majority of the development on the settlements, and if you don't give a shit about building settlements, you kind of miss out on like half the game. But I don't know. I like New Vegas, but I think I only like New Vegas because of the mods. If I played vanilla New Vegas, I don't know if I'd like it as much. And Fallout 3, I fucking hate the tunnels. The subway system in Fallout 3 sucks ass. I hate it so much. I get lost so much, but I've also not played that game since I was like 14. So I might be dumb when I was 14. So, all right, did I vamp long enough?
You certainly
Nice.
did. It's Mandarin for monster or demon.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
So, Fallout 4 is the one I've played the most. It's my version of Skyrim.
That's fair.
I didn't play 3. I tried to play New Vegas, but look, I'm the problem. I understand that. I'm the problem. But there's no sprint in New Vegas. And the character is so fucking slow. Why did they make them so goddamn slow? I'm doing that dumbass Minecraft thing where I'm hopping because my brain thinks it's getting to where it needs to go faster.
Yeah.
And that's not true. I know it's not true, but it's the only way I could play the game. And then when you die and have to go back an entire town, I just put the game down. Yeah. Because I cannot do that.
That's a very like old Bethesda thing where it's like even Skyrim's like that. You'll be like halfway through like a dungeon and like you fucking step on a trap and like a log hits you in the face and you die. And it puts you at the beginning of the dungeon, and you're like, I just spent 45 minutes going to that point, and I'm now back at the beginning. And then you just put down the controller, and then you don't play for like a month and a half.
Yeah, I'm more interested in going back and playing the top-down point-and-click ones, Fallout 1 and 2, than I am in playing 3 in New Vegas.
But this one last thing, and then we can be done. But it's like, just think of those guys who made the first Fallout games, and then like sold the IP, looking at how much money like Bethesda is making on Fallout now, and they're like, man, this sucks. I hate this.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so.
But the first 2 Fallout games have Ron Perlman in them as the narrator, and that's fantastic. I wish the
Fallout
show had
3
it.
He does too.
Oh, he does it in
4,
Fallout
I
3.
think.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's the war never changes guy.
I
Yeah,
so?
he is. So like, if they do that in Fallout 4, then yeah, it's Ron Perlman. That's why I told my girlfriend before watching this. I'm like, okay, if Ron Perlman doesn't show up in this, and if they don't play that song where it's like, I don't want to set the world on fire, then this is not a Fallout show. And so far in the episode 2, they played that song. So all we need is Ron Perlman. So that's it. And then when they make a Skyrim show, all we need is oh, actually, also in Fallout, they should have Liam Neeson. Because
In Skyrim?
Oh, sorry, in Fallout.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Who is he
He
in
is
Fallout?
the dad in Fallout 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was thinking in Oblivion, Patrick Stewart was the king. So, or the emperor. So if they ever me.
One of the dragons is played
Mario.
by the guy who voiced Mario.
Okay, also, I think that guy also voices like the grandpa on Ben 10, but don't quote me on that.
Interesting. I could see that. So Ron Perlman was in Fallout 1 in 1997, Fallout 2 in 1998, Fallout Tactics in 2001, Fallout 3 in 2008, Fallout New Vegas in 2010, Fallout 4 in 2015 as the newscaster. Then in 2018, he was in Fallout 76 as the narrator again.
Yeah, so like I don't know how they could not have him again in the show. Also, I didn't realize that. Yeah, like when the bombs are dropping at the beginning of Fallout 4, the news anchor, I just now heard his voice in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fucking Ron Perlman. I didn't even think about that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Now that I think about that, I hear
like
it.
when I first listened to it, like until you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't notice that. But cool. You want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't come up with an idea for homework.
Oh,
so...
hey, we'll just play Helldivers 2 together, and then we'll talk about it next time. How about that?
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right.
Are we gonna post footage on the channel?
Oh yeah, we could. See how it goes. My computer
Alright,
keeps
that
freezing,
sounds
so
good.
we'll see how that works. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, if that gets popular, I don't know, we could make like a shared Twitch account, and then one of us can stream, and people can watch.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So, cool.
Do you want to set up some goals for if we get X amount of subscribers?
Sure. Do we want to do that right now, or do you want to do that for the beginning of next episode?
Let's do it for the beginning of the next episode, but I think if we hit like a threshold, I might make a video essay about one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that anyways.
I was planning on it, but I was like, no one's gonna watch this. But if we get like, I don't know, what's a reasonable amount of subscribers? We have what, 6 right now?
50.
50 subs. Okay, yeah. If we get 50 subs, I'll make a Why Ninja Assassin is the best film of all time.
Yeah, there you go. So you better subscribe.
All right. Yeah, you better make some fake accounts and subscribe to it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We done?
All right.